CNN is now disputing a conspiracy theory being spread by Joe Rogan in a recent episode of his show that Elon Musk was on, that because the rally where a Donald Trump fan tried to take him out was live streamed on CNN, that might mean they knew it was gonna happen. Here he is.
I think more likely it's individuals involved that recognize that it's beneficial to them if he gets assassinated. And so a small group of people carry something out. And with this kid, we don't know anything, right? And everyone stopped asking questions, and there was never a formal report. There was never press conferences where they detailed all the information that we know currently and where the investigation stands at the moment. What we know is you have a very young kid who was filmed, they knew he was there with a rangefinder a half an hour before the event. You also know that CNN streamed it live, which I do not believe they did for any other rally, and certainly not for a rally that's in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. Like, there's a lot of weird shit. The fact that they wouldn't let people be on that roof because the Secret Service lady said it was sloped and it was dangerous. That's what she'd want to have. Meanwhile, the snipers that were on the other roof was a steeper pitch. It made no sense.
I totally agree. It makes no sense.
Oh, well, as long as Elon Musk agrees. And so that's Joe Rogan saying a lot of nonsense, but mainly CNN. That's the part that really stands out. He's implying that one of the biggest mainstream news networks knew that Trump was gonna be attacked. And they decided, okay, we're gonna, that information is transmitted from the deep state that's gonna take out Donald Trump to CNN. And so all the people that would be necessary to know that in the decision process, I guess, are just floating around out there refusing to say anything because people are generally really good at keeping secrets. And it had to be shown on TV. Why? I don't know. How would that help the deep state? Wouldn't that just make him more of a martyr if you could actually see it? And in particular, Joe Rogan says, I don't think they did that with any others. And I think the relevant words there are don't think, because I don't think that he did. Do you think he looked it up? Do you think he was like, oh, that strikes me as odd that CNN would show their rally? Let's see if they did any other live stream. Do you think he looked for 3 seconds? Really? Especially one that's so remote. What does that have to do with literally anything? Now, they point out the reason that they broadcast that one is because news about his pick for vice president was considered that it could come out at any moment. So it was newsworthy. That's the sort of thing that if you or your producers looked up for even 3 seconds, you'd see it or whatever. But they obviously didn't. And so he just implies that CNN wanted live snuff footage of Donald Trump being taken out. And then there's all the other nonsense about the actual attack on him. He buys the idea that Thomas Crooks, this dude who couldn't even make it into the shooting club because he was so bad, that's who the deep state chose. They're like, okay, we're gonna do the unimaginable. We're gonna take out a presidential candidate, a former president. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna coordinate with CNN, and we're gonna have the cops not go there, and the Secret Service isn't gonna watch. We're gonna do all of this so that a guy who sucks at shooting gets a chance at him. That's it. We're putting all of our money on Thomas No Aim Crooks. That's what we're gonna do. And we don't know anything about him. We don't know anything about his past. First of all, for months and months, we've known stuff about this guy. All of his, the people that went to school with him were perfectly happy to talk about what they know about the guy and what they don't know. And it isn't a ton necessarily, but people say he was bullied, he was an outcast. One said he was slightly right-leaning, and he was indeed registered to vote as a Republican. And we already know that he had been spending months looking for things to do to potentially draw some attention. So he was Googling Donald Trump and his schedule, but he was also Googling Joe Biden. Or did the deep state just put that into his Google search history to confuse the issue or whatever? Look, this is all so maddening that Joe Rogan, he doesn't even have to think about it for even a second before he lays out a theory like that, JR. But what do you think of it?
Absolutely no
responsibility for what he's saying or how he's saying it. There's plenty of ways you can spin conspiracy theories off the top of your head and act like they make any sense, as long as you have someone that's been sold as the most genius, richest guy in the world on there with you to say, I agree. So sure, okay, yeah. So the same guy sitting on top of that roof silo with that scope and is pointed at Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. There's also stories that people in the crowd saw him up there before any shots were taken and alerted Secret Service and said, look, there's a guy on that warehouse building across the way with a direct shot at the president standing in front of everyone here. You guys should do something about it. This guy was interviewed. Remember that guy, John? He was interviewed talking about how he was screaming, shouting, and saw them, and multiple people started telling him, do something about this, do something about it. Here's my conspiracy theory that you can just spout out because apparently you can. The Secret Service knew about it because Donald Trump and the rest of his campaign that were being protected by this particular group of Secret Service wanted him to get shot at. And they chose this one guy who can't shoot, or maybe he's actually a really good shot, and he's able to miss by millimeters the side of his head. He just wanted a graze of his ear to make sure that he almost died. And still the same guy, Donald Trump, who's afraid of anyone feeding him any food because he might get poisoned. He actually participated for some reason in this whole thing to almost get shot at, to then stand up later and go fight because he knew it was all happening. It's a stupid conspiracy theory. But as long as you say it and the richest guy in the world says, yeah, I think that's right, then you have some kind of legitimacy. It doesn't make any sense, but this is part of that lazy politics. You pump so much ridiculous propaganda into the brains and heads of the people that follow you. No matter what you say, you can literally say anything. And one of your mouthpieces, Joe Rogan, can say, okay. And that'll be enough for them to believe it. Because Joe Rogan, who knows nothing, in fact, knows less than nothing, said, you know what I think? And he didn't.
And look, honestly, coming out of this, if I was seeing that, I'd be infuriated by this, obviously. But like the bigger issue, he has Elon Musk on. He has Elon, like, and he's just, hey, you know what? We have the richest man in the world who's doing, I don't know, 50 different things that demand hard questions right now. Let's like vibe about Butler. Let's just do that. That'll be fun. Who cares if you're potentially stealing hundreds of millions of dollars? Who cares if you're breaking the law and violating the Constitution to fire a bunch of people? Literal Joe Rogan fans being fired. Joe Rogan doesn't give a damn about it. Not gonna bring it up with him or whatever. Let's just like talk about like, isn't it weird that they live streamed Donald Trump? Jesus, man.
Isn't it weird? That's it's weird.
I don't understand why the more popular people are, the more influence and power they have, the less standards we have for them. They have no standards whatsoever for the people with the biggest audiences, the most political power, the most control over the economy. That just seems like that's not the way that it should be. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.